prospect the world in the next 20 years. My work, full time that I get paid for, apart from talking, is futurism. Okay, yeah. Thank you. Somebody may ask, who is a futurist? I think he did a bit of that. It's more of a digital, modern way of calling somebody a prophet, right? But a lot of the time we do this based on data.
Yeah.
So the next 15 minutes, I'm going to talk to you about what the world might look like and what it means for you as a parent. There are two wings to this. When I do it in a full-blown way, we'll do the first one where we prospect the world for parents and kids and understand how technology is affecting them. The second day is called digital kidnapping. If you have a kid here who plays, what's the game that they play, Jiva? What's that game? The Grand Theft and the other one? Fortnite. Right?
Fortnite.
So if you have a kid that plays Fortnite, you need digital kidnapping because there's a whole world out there online and you need to know how to protect your kids. Well, we're going to run through all that. So just for a bit of background so that there's context, I've been doing this for the last 11 years. In June, we'll have been 11 years doing this and doing a lot of work in digital transformation, helping young people, helping parents, organizations understand innovation, creativity, and how technology is transforming Africa. Done this on about 600 stages, about 10 countries. We're trying very much to push this agenda for Africa because we're always almost leapfrogging. These are some of the places we've spoken at. I run an organization called Ronsard Global People, and the work that we're doing is really around this and how we can understand technology and the way it applies to our everyday life. So let's go straight into it. From here, 15 minutes counts. I'm sure immediately my time is up. They'll tell me to get off. I hope I'll be able to get through it by then. If I start speaking speed, I warned you. Don't forget, right? If you have followed anything, you should know something about ICOs. If you've heard about cryptocurrencies, anybody? Did any of us ever invest in Bitcoin, any of that?
No.
Did you?
No.
I lost.
No, I lost big time.
Right? So ICOs became the new IPOs. If you've not paid attention, you will very soon because Uber is about to launch their own IPO or their own token. What it means is that very soon you're not going to have the option to only pay with your card or to pay with cash, but you're also going to have to pay with a cryptocurrency from Uber. The one that gained a lot of momentum is what Facebook is trying to do. I'm sure a lot of us have heard about the cryptocurrency from Facebook that they're looking to put out. It should be an interesting one because of the economics behind it. I'm also sure a lot of us have heard about artificial intelligence, and we don't know what to make of it and what it means. A good example here that I wanted to show you is that even toothbrushes now have AI. It turns out that we don't really know how to brush our teeth or the places in our dental cavity that we should put it. So this is an app connected to your brush. It's a smart brush. It tells you where to put the brush very well so that you can really clean your teeth. It tells you just how much technology is really entering our world. Has anybody seen this headline anywhere? That the robots are coming for our jobs, or that technology is coming.
All the time.
So I wanted to bring you a bit of good news so that you don't worry anymore. These are headlines. This is automation in Britain is stirring unrest in labor. Down there you can see Mr. Robot often outshines his master. At the last end you can also see that they are talking about how much technology is changing. Just so you are relaxed, first off, this is not new. None of this has ever been new. On the far end, as long as 1811, technology was disrupted. In 1933 it was happening. 1951 it was already happening. Now the thing that I need to let you know and understand, number one, is technology is not software and hardware. Technology is anything that makes work easier, faster, and more efficient. If that's your wife is your technology, right? Let me leave it there. Now, the good news I brought to you is if you're scared that technology is coming for your job, you are not alone. This is a video. Can you please move the mouse and play the video? It's just about 10 seconds. So you have to move on top. Yes, great. So normally in the house, the person who is always stealing fish is the cat. You see the robot just done that, and you can see that you are not the only one who's worried. The cat is also very worried because a lot of the things that he didn't do, he's going to be blamed for it. So you are not alone. You are in good hands. Misery Needs Company. That's your company. The thing that I want you to start thinking about is this: as technology gets introduced into societies, businesses and the way societies interact change. If you know about Kodak, there was a time, and I'm a 90s baby, I grew up seeing a little bit of it. You used to dress very well on a Sunday, and if you had a very good clothes, you go take a picture, and if you had a good relationship with a photographer, they bring it early, you wait, they will film it up, and then they will wash it, bring it back to you. Kodak was the giant in that they were producing the cameras, the film, and bringing the output. $28 billion cap, 140,000 employees. 2012, they go bankrupt with 17,000 employees. Same year that they go bankrupt, a company called Instagram pops up, hits $1 billion evaluation with 13 employees. How does a 13-man company compete and put out a business and a giant like this that has 140,000 employees? And that's the thing that I need you to start thinking about. Now, what really happened to Kodak was not that witchcraft came in or somebody prophesied something bad. It was the introduction of that thing called digital camera, if you remember. I grew up seeing something called the MP3 player. Do you remember that? 128 meg, all your songs could fit on it by some magic.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine how. But before that, there was this thing called a Walkman. And then there was a Discman.
Yeah.
But we seem to have forgotten all of that because all these things keep creeping up in our hand and we don't even realize how fast it was going. So that was what happened to Kodak. And I'll tell you more. People have no idea how fast things are moving in terms of technology, and I want to wake you up to that. So you start thinking about it as a parent in your relationship with kids, as somebody who's growing a business, whether you're working for someone or the business is your own. Now, the reason why we're seeing this change in technology are these 7 factors that we've studied and we've researched very, very intensely. We're seeing computation abundance, we're seeing time abundance. There's a lot of capital that's running around. Demonetization is happening. Communication abundance. We are seeing increasing genius, and then we're seeing increasing lifespan. Let me bring you to it. Co-founder of Intel, his name is Gordon Moore, did a study. I'll give you a bit of data, but it will make sense very soon, so please stay with me. Did a research for about 7 years between 1958 and 1965. Came up with something that was called Gordon Moore's law. So the research that he did was that for every 12 to 24 months, computers will double in price and performance. What it means is that performance will go up and the price will go down. So if you remember, there used to be a Pentium 1. Remember? Yeah. And then we went to 2 was better than 1, 3 was better than 2, 4 was better. Today, if you have a Pentium 4 in your house, please raise your hand and let me let the police arrest you. We cannot. Nobody can understand why you have a Pentium 4 because it doesn't make sense anymore. So that is Gordon Moore's law at play. But let me bring this to you practically. This is the study that he did. This is in 1958, the first ever integrated circuit that was built. In 1974, that was the first ever commercial model they released. The laptop that is projecting my presentation has about 21 billion transistors. If you're not into engineering and you don't understand transistors, let me help you with that as well. On the left, you see our first ever commercial GPS receiver, the thing that's in your phone now that allows you to order an Uber or send your location to someone. You could not have it inside. It needed to be an external thing. It cost $120,000. Today, it is less than a cent and it is in your phone. Let me help you really bring it home. Do you have any idea what that thing on the left might be? Anybody just guess?
Wi-Fi.
Anybody?
Wi-Fi.
You can see there's an aeroplane there that carries it. Any ideas?
Transmitter.
No, that's not the black box. A storage device. This is the IBM Ramak 503. This was the first ever hard drive ever made. You needed an aeroplane to carry it.
Oh.
Can you guess how much space it had?
Uh-oh.
1 megabyte, 2, 5, anybody? And Shakawane's song couldn't fit on this thing. It was 5 megabytes. So if I came here and I did this presentation and you recorded it and you put it here, you now need a chopper to come and uplift it and send it to the office for you to be able to work with it. Today, everybody of us in our phones, we have 128 gig, we have 32. Even if you have 32 gig, your friends will laugh at you. Like, what do you have? Right? So that is Gordon Moore's law. What the question then is, once we leave here, where do we go to? Now we're beginning to hear that data is being stored in exabytes, and the future of data is not in the cloud as a lot of people are thinking. It's actually the DNA, because apparently our DNA has strains that can store the most data. But that's not what we're talking about today. A lot of us got introduced to computer with personal computers. I saw it in the school that I went to, and it came in the early days of Mavis Beacon, and we used to type those things. That's when we were introduced. Then in the 1980s, the www revolution started. In the year 2003, when Steve Jobs announced the iPhone 3G, everything changed. Now every single thing we do is digital. So we're living in an immersive digital world. Some of us will never buy a physical flower for a human being, but we'll be sending flower emojis to our girlfriends every day. Our relationships, our economics, our transformations, everything that we do is now digital. The thing that is happening with this over-digitization of work and life and everything we're doing is beginning to create all these strange new things that is making it very difficult for parents and educators to understand what it means to bring up children in this world. Because if you're now looking at things like synthetic biology and 3D printing and virtual reality and augmented reality, let me give you a very good example. If you're, for instance, in a business school studying marketing, and you're doing the 4 P's of marketing, the world of social media, where the P for place does not exist, and you cannot explain viral and how things go viral, you're even doomed from the scratch.
Yeah.
Because the person that you are telling to put the thing on billboards, when you're driving, even you are not looking on the billboard, you're looking on your phone. So now if you studied marketing and you did in business school and you did nothing about immersive marketing and you know nothing about new literacy marketing like Snapchat and TikTok, and you have a degree in marketing, in which world do you fit?
I don't know.
Right? So that's something for you to think about. Then the thing that really shocked us in technology is it started diminishing the power of time. And I'm glad that this conversation happened before me. I was so humbled to hear some of the things I heard. But I think that we've realized with technology is it keeps shrinking time. That thing that you see on the left, you can read the headline for yourself. There's now a way to make aged-style whiskey in 24 hours, and technology has a way of making a 25-year-old whiskey in less than 24 hours. There's a company in China called Ronsard. Ronsard is a 3D printing company that can 3D print a house in 24 hours. What it means is when mommy leaves the house in the morning and daddy is bored, by the time daddy comes back, the house looks entirely different because he broke it and printed another one. What that means for construction and the effect it will have on urban establishments would be very different. Now let's look at education. If you look at places like Coursera and Khan Academy and all these open online places that you can study, the research is showing that if you are able to sit down and study anytime, anything between 7 to 2 hours and above, you are able to finish an entire 4-year semester work in that same time frame if you're able to sit down and complete it. So the time that we used to do things and acquire knowledge is also changing, and we need to start paying attention to that. SMPs are are totally vanishing from the face of the earth. So I'll ask you a few questions. Do you remember Panasonic?
Yes.
Where are they? Sagan. Is it Sagan? What happened? Sony Ericsson? Nokia? BlackBerry? Do you remember BlackBerry?
Yeah.
BlackBerry was our beloved, like BlackBerry. Can you imagine? Yeah. Anyway, so it has moved from in the 1920s, it could exist for 67 years. Today it's 15 years. In a country where we don't even have enough legacy businesses, this is doomed for us. Because we've not even seen enough companies grow 100 years in Ghana that are Ghanaian owned and Ghanaian run. And then you see technology displacing at this rate, then what happens? So for a country, we need to start thinking. The whole idea of work is also changing, and it's really becoming heavy for educators to prepare kids for the world that they don't understand. How do you create a world in which in 1992, to be able to get a bandwidth was about $1,245. Today, some of us have 2 phones, 3 phones. When this one doesn't have data, you put the hotspot here, you become a router yourself, right? If you look at the cost of launching an internet company, you needed to have the physical infrastructure and be able to have the service and everything.
Yeah.
In a country where the light will not stay on with guarantee, your service will shut down, your entire business is down. Today, with about $100, you can buy space on Amazon Web Service and you can start 3 internet companies before the next morning.
Yeah.
So we can see, remember Gordon Moore's law, every 24 months, the computing power would go. If you look at what it took to make a call, and this one is particularly interesting for me. I grew up in Brongahafo in a small township called Domahinkro, and we had a big one. It was called communication centers, remember? My mom lived then in Holland. They called once a month. So you go and sit down on Saturday morning and wait, because if the call comes and you miss the call, next month. Today, everybody has it. 5G has become a very interesting one. In Ghana, we're still hearing that we have 4G. We want to believe that we have. I'm not going to get into trouble for that. Let me move on. This is one that's interesting to me because almost every big tech company is going on about how they can provide free gigabit internet to the whole world for free. And I insist and emphasize free, because what it means is soon enough, telcos will have to beg me to pick up their phone or their network, because the data will be coming from elsewhere for free. The question is, are telcos in any way preparing for a world where data is coming absolutely for free? That's a conversation we also need to have. We're living very amazing times, and I just wanted to prove that to you. Then this is what is interesting in the thinking of what technology does. You can see all the way in 2010, this thing called Netflix. How many of us are on it? An interesting thing happened. Immediately the coronavirus pandemic took off, the Netflix stock went up 36%.
Yeah.
Because everybody was scared to go out, so now people started social
Yeah,
media.
yeah,
I
yeah.
said it is sad how somebody's plight will become your breakthrough. So, there was this time that we used to go and rent DVDs and movies to come and watch. The company that was the king of this was called Blockbuster. It would interest you to know that Blockbuster had the opportunity to buy Netflix twice and they said no. This is what the CEO actually said. He said neither Redbox nor Netflix are even on the radar screen in terms of competition. In 2010, Blockbuster went bankrupt. They went out of business. Today, Netflix, a multi-billion-dollar evaluation company. What is happening with technology and why you should pay attention? If you look down there at how fast things can change, you can see that 2006, most of the companies are retail companies, oil companies, Sears, JC Penney. Down there, you can see that small company called Amazon. But on that far end, you can see how fast they were growing. They were growing at 2,780%. It was absolutely mind-boggling. Nobody understood that. They've now become a $1 trillion company and one of only 3 businesses that have done that. Yeah. This thing that is called demonetization is super interesting. As we sit here around, a lot of us are wearing watches not for the accessory and its functionality. We are wearing as a social status symbol because we don't need that. We have time on our phones. We have games on our phones. Before that, all these things needed to happen. You needed a radio as a different thing. You needed a camcorder as a different thing. There was a time we had cameras that cannot do both video and still pictures, right? So we had camcorders that could do video, and then we had cameras that could do only photography. All of these things have diminished into that thing called your phone. Let me help break it down. Every time you download a productivity app from your app store, whether on Google or iOS, somebody lost their job. Should I explain? Yes. If you now go ahead and you download a recipe app that gives you recipes, do you need somebody to give you recipes anymore?
No.
If you download an app that shows you how many triceps and biceps you should do at the gym, do you need a gym instructor?
No.
The question is, who is developing the app that will take your job? You should think about that. 15 years ago, this job didn't exist. How do educators prepare for the next 15 years? With flying cars coming into play. This thing that really, if you look on there, you can see social media manager, AI-related jobs, content moderator, data scientist, podcast producer. None of this existed in 15 years. So if you're using an education system to prepare kids for this, none of them were even in existence for us to think about. The one that is really interesting to me is this thing called drone piloting. Because when you think about aviation is very complex. You go to school for a very long time and you study it and you need to do a lot of field work before you become a pilot. Today, if I buy a $100 drone and I sit on YouTube for 10 hours, I become a drone pilot overnight, and it's a real business where people are making money from. So we need to start thinking about that. If you think about it, when Uber showed up in Ghana, the taxis were cursing them. They wanted to take them to court. They were fighting them, beating them physically, and saying, go out of here. We've seen what Amazon has done to bookstores. Libraries, the concept of libraries are gone. There used to be libraries where we had a lot of glory in going in there. And you know, there were not a lot of people who like reading. So when you're the library person or swag to it, right now it's gone. Skype has totally decimated long distance. An interesting time I did a presentation on this and I put this slide up. One man woke up and said, Kwame, I need you to explain the digital technological transformation to this, because before there was Skype, I am an Ewe man. My people used to call human beings to apply in water, to appear in water. Can you explain? I said, please, that is not something I can. That technology is way above me. If you look at Google, I have a big problem with Google because when I was in primary, I made a good living writing love letters for people. Today, people wake up and Google romantic text message and they get 2 million search indexes. I'm even out of job. I can't write letters anymore. Airbnb is a very good one for you to think about in your business and the way you're bringing up kids and how we're raising them to think. Airbnb is an industry leader with no legacy cost. If you are, say, a Kempinski or any of our hotels in Ghana, you want to add another room, you need brick, mortar, plumber, electrician to put the whole thing together. When Airbnb wants to add a new room, you take a picture of your room, 2 megabytes, and you upload and they have a new room. How do you compete with that? In which time frame are you able to cover and chase people like this? So So this is something you absolutely should think about. 1904, just how fast things can happen. You can see that horse and buggy is all over the place. There are only 2 automobiles. Everybody was saying, oh, leave them. This is new technology. It's for the kids. It will disappear. That's what all our parents said when Facebook came. Until 5 years later, all of them showed up on Facebook. Right? And then everybody said, oh, WhatsApp. Oh, that's for the kids. And then 3 years later, all our parents are
They
on
are
WhatsApp.
on
Now,
WhatsApp.
posted it to our status, so we block
We
you.
don't mind them. I don't know.
In 1914, you can see that 1917, you can see that every single horse and buggy is gone. If you are now still riding on the house horse and buggy around, everybody will look at you like crazy. That's how fast things happen. We have heard that there are going to be autonomous cars, which means cars that drive themselves and they don't need drivers. This will affect a lot the real estate industry. And all of a sudden, I don't mind living in Kaswa because my trip on my way to work is even productive because I'm not on the wheel. I'm on my laptop answering emails and doing some productive stuff we need to think about. Already, Google and Waymo have put a car on about 5 city streets for the last 2 years. There have been about 4 accidents, and if you compare that to the death rate of human error, I don't think we want to go into that conversation. We now know that almost every single major company is either talking of electric cars or self-driving cars. By 2025, hopefully not in the whole world, I'm sure Africa will jump on later, but car ownership is something that's going to be a thing of the past. As we're running closer to an end, everybody should have seen a documentary like this where there's a company or an assembling point where you see robots assembling the cars, and nobody had a problem with that because nobody wanted to carry that. Then, in 25th May 2016, 4 years ago, this company is called Foxconn. It's based in China. They are the people who do a lot of the assembling for iPhone and for Samsung. So if you look at the back of every iPhone, it says something like made in China, made in America, assembled in China, or something like that at the back. Foxconn does that. If you look down there, it says that they replaced over 60,000 of their factory workers with robots. And this is what the problem is, and this is why I want to start driving the point. Anything in education that you do that is repetitive and has a pattern can be done better than by a technology than a human being. Yeah. So if a human being comes to work and they have a bad day, excuse me to say, it's the time of the month, they are not in a good mood, they just woke up with a boyfriend or girlfriend, they can mess up the assembly. If you put a robot there, they know specifically what to do. You come in the morning, you press start, they assemble as many as they can in a day and they go. If you want to update the technology or the robot, all you need to do is update the program overnight, click update, by morning you're good. You want to update your people, you have to take them on a 2-month course. You're not even sure if they will learn what they want to do. It's just really... So I asked the question, if you are CEO of this company and you replace your workers, 60,000 of them with robots, are you evil or you're being efficient? Seller. This one is an interesting one. They're using this to test out, and this is from Boston Dynamics. They're using this to test out in places where a lot of armed robbers are becoming very, very crazy about guns and shooting. If you put this after an armed robber, it doesn't need water, it doesn't take a bribe, it will run after you till it calms you down. If you shoot it, the worst we lose is a wire or a metal. If you shoot a human being, we lose a life. Yeah. So there's real life application for some of these things, and they'll be coming more and more in. Every single Uber headquarters in the world has this thing there as their patrol or security. There are no physical security in any of their places, and they watch the entire place, and you do anything, they climb up and you're not leaving the parking lot until somebody comes for you. Now we've seen that. I think our vice president a couple of years ago mentioned drone deliveries for medicine and a few other things that they're looking to do. This is super interesting. Then the ones that I thought were even safe, like cooking. This is a very good robot called Molly, and Molly is learning how to prepare meals, about 10 meals a day. Yeah. As at the time a Business Insider did this cover story, it could prepare 2,000 different types of meals.
Wow.
I don't know who in this room is so good that they can prepare 200 meals effectively. Anybody? 200 meals? When I even boil water, I need chance, I need to pray. So you can imagine. This thing about virtualization is a very, very interesting one for education. We do this every year where we go into the universities and we talk to them about subjects they should not be studying in 2019, 2020
Never.
If they want to remain relevant in the job market or in life, period. This thing called virtualization, we believe, will bring an end to storytelling and usher us into what we call story living. So if you've worn any of the Samsung VR gears and look at how that experience is, just begin to imagine what it will mean for education and for storytelling across different places. All these 4 things that you're seeing there are actual job titles that not a single MBA course in the world is preparing people for. The nano weapon specialist, the diffractive optics modeler, these are the people who actually build the VR gears that we wear. They are in high demand, but not a single MBA course is preparing them. Most of the people in that field are self-taught and come into it by themselves. Automation and replacement of jobs is not something that I need to continue to do. So, where does this lead us? What does it mean for you as a parent raising kids? What does it mean as a business person? And what should you think about? First, look at this video for about a minute.
Can you hold it, my
So for a bit of background, this is an educational system that's being used in Finland now, where they're using immersive technologies where you can wear something on your eyes. You can see that the kids are wearing that. You activate it just like the Google glasses. Peter is sick and is at home, but his avatar is in the classroom. So he's home. You can see him wearing that. He's already partaking in class. He can now contribute and give answers. You can see he's raised his hand up. The teacher can call him. He can give his answer. And they do not do this for scores. They do this to add up to their general. So they don't compete at the end of the year for exams and who is first or who is second. You add up points and you use that to redeem real life incentives. So something that they were taught in class, they are trying to work on an engine, it's not working. The teacher can not only teach in the classroom, as the engine is failing, they call him who he actually works in a real factory. He comes to them at that point using that same technology as an avatar and shows them. So learning is non-stop, regardless and irrespective of where they are.
This is great.
So you can see working. Now, this is where it gets controversial. Honorable Minister, I am super excited you're here. You are probably the most convincing politician I've heard who has said things that sounds to me like they know what they're doing, and I give you absolute credit for that. Whenever I've said this in any place, I sound controversial because it will shock you to know that what it takes to get this system to run in a classroom is $12,000 per class. Sometimes when I hear some of the monies being mentioned on our radio station, I wonder if it's our country or another planet. But I will not go into politics. That's not why I'm here. So, in thinking about solutions, we need to start thinking about the fact that technology and automation will do what machines are best for, and we need to start focusing on what is really human. So we need to think about humanity for our young people, ethics, which is something that came up in this very conversation before me. Creativity was the entire central conversation, and imagination, which is something that we don't even put price and premium on enough. The other thing you want to look at, if you want to think about as a parent, as an educator, sense making is very important. It was never ever in our educational system to understand that things make sense. I got whipped for 12 lashes and knelt down for 6 hours because I found a different alternative to the same answer. And my teacher said I wanted to put him to shame. So sense making is one, social intelligence is another, underage communication and all those things that we need to know, emotional intelligence, novel and adaptive thinking, which brings innovation. Cross-cultural competency is super important. If you have the opportunity to let your kids travel and experience different cultures, different music, different food, different people, let them do that. Computational thinking. As much as you want to protect them from the technology, they are going to live with them for the rest of their lives. So let them understand that there are risks involved, but don't hide it from them. New media literacy is important. When there are new platforms, let your kids explore it. Transdisciplinarity is super important. The thing that everybody is championing with education now is try and do horizontal and vertical. So with horizontal, know a lot about one thing, and with vertical, know something about different things. You need to think also about design mindsets, cognitive load management, the thing that is causing a lot of pressure and a lot of depression on young people because they can't even manage their own mental load. And finally, you can also think about virtual collaboration. I live with a story that should keep you caked and super optimistic. This young man here is called Jack Andreka, 14 years old. Jack Andreka had an uncle who suffered from pancreatic cancer. When it happened, he got very upset. The uncle died and he said, what happened? It turns out that there's not enough early detection mechanisms for pancreatic cancer. We have it for breast cancer, colon, all the different cancers, but not for pancreatic cancer. By the time it is discovered, it is at 90% fatality, and over 40,000 people die from this disease every year. So Jack said, I don't understand, I need to do something about this. He started doing Google searches on different clinical trials on pancreatic cancer, downloaded a bunch of clinical trials, applied a basic machine learning algorithm. So machine learning is under AI. If any of you are here are technocrats in that field, and then came out with a thesis. So after he got the thesis, he put out a 5-page thesis and sent it out to the top 200 research cancer facilities in the US. Nobody got back to him. 199 said 0. The last university, Johns Hopkins University, because of proximity, responded to him and said, you know what, bring the kid around, give him a t-shirt, give him a mug, tell him you've shown initiative. When it's time for you to apply, come to Johns Hopkins. He takes his 5-page thesis to Johns Hopkins. He speaks to the lead research guy at the place, and the man realized now the kid is making a bit of sense, so he asked for about 4 months in the lab for the kid. Did the research. His thesis was that carbon nanotubes might help us detect early stage pancreatic cancer and help save lives. They put it to the test, work at it in the lab, and it turns out to be true. Jack Andreka, at 13 years old, single-handedly transformed pancreatic cancer from 99% mortality to 99% survival, and he did it by searching Google. The point here is technology is an enabler that can help us solve some of Africa's biggest problems. And as parents, as educators, even as the young ones who will be listening to us, if we can start approaching technology not only as a tool of entertainment and pleasure, but as a real problem-solving tool for the continent, then we might be able to really do something about Africa. The thing that I leave in most of my talks is, if you are not part of the solution, then you are absolutely part of the problem. Africa needs us, and it needs to be a joint, consensus effort from everybody, from bottom down, so that we can achieve that African Renaissance that we speak about. My name is Kwame. Thank you very much.